Alright, welcome. In this video we're going to be working through Algebra 2 Quiz 4.2, which is all about completing the square. Okay, so the first one is we're going to complete the square to write the quadratic equation in vertex form. And thanks to this helpful formula right here, we're going for that type of formula. Okay, so when we are completing the square, oh no, that's not the right problem. Alright, when we're going to complete the square, what we're going to do is we're going to add the same number to both sides. So we're going to add some room to add to y, and then I'm going to say, all right, x squared minus 12x, and then I'm going to add some number to x squared minus 12x to make it a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to leave some room, and then I'm going to add a 41. Okay, and then I like to just kind of box it off to remind myself that this is going to become a perfect square trinomial. The number that I'm going to add to both sides is going to be, all right, I'm going to take that negative 12, and I'm going to divide it by 2. That'll be negative 6, and I square it, and that'll be 36. Okay, so I'm going to add 36 over here, and I'll add 36 over there to be fair, right? And then the thing in the box is going to become x minus 6 squared when I factor it. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides, and I'm going to say, all right, this is y equals x minus 6 squared plus 41 minus 36 is going to be 5. Okay, and that's in vertex form, and so I'm good. Right. All right, write the quadratic in standard form. All right, that's kind of a nice one for us. Okay, so we're just going to expand this and write it as ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so when I go over here to do the side, off to the side, I need to do x minus 3 times x minus 3. And we'll say that's x squared minus 3x minus 3 more x plus 9. Okay, so I've got y equals x squared minus 3x minus 3x. I don't know what happened to that one, but plus 9. Okay, plus 4. Okay, because that was all the thing, x minus 3 squared. So now I'm going to have x squared minus 6x, and then plus 9 plus 4 is plus 13. Oh, whoops. Alright, that's our answer. That's in standard form. Okay, now we're going to solve the equation. Okay, so if it's already set up like this, we should probably just take the square root of both sides. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking the square root of both sides. So the square root of, not x squared, pardon me, x plus 2 squared equals the square root of 15. Okay, we know that means the absolute value of x plus 2 is x plus 2 squared square rooted. Okay, so if the absolute value of a number equals root 15, then that number is either going to be plus or minus root 15. So we'll say x plus 2 equals plus or minus square root 15. And then I could subtract 2 from both sides of the equation to get my solution. So I'd have two solutions. I'd have x equals negative 2 plus the square root of 15, and x equals negative 2 minus the square root of 15. All right, now we're going to solve this equation by completing the square. Now if we look at this one up here, what we're really going to do is we're going to get it up to something that looks like the equation that we got given to us in number 3, and then we'll just proceed the same way. Okay, so I just need to add the same number to both sides to make this perfect square. So x squared minus 2x plus some number is going to equal 9 plus that same number. Okay, I need to figure out what number to add to both sides by taking negative 2, dividing by 2, and then squaring. So if I square negative 1, I'm going to get positive 1. So I'm going to add 1 here, and I'm going to add 1 over here as well. Okay, on the left, I can factor this, and this will become x minus 1 squared. And that'll equal 10. Okay, I can take the square root of both sides, and I'll say the square root of x minus 1 squared equals the square root of 10. Okay, that's going to be absolute value of x minus 1 equaling square root of 10. So I'm going to go back up to the top. X minus 1 is going to either be the positive or the negative square root of 10. And then I can add 1 to both sides to solve and get my two solutions. And I'll have x equals 1 plus the square root of 10 and 1 minus the square root of 10. All right, now we're going to find what value of k would make x squared minus 40x plus k a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so this is like, what value do I add when I'm completing the square? Very distilled problem. So I'm going to take the negative 40 and divide by 2 and then square. Okay, and then that's going to be, all right, negative 40 divided by 2 is negative 20. And I multiply negative 20 times negative 20 and I get positive 400. Okay, next couple are about this function f of x equals negative 1/3 of x plus 1 squared minus 2. Okay, we can find the coordinates of the vertex on the graph of f, knowing that it's h and k when we have x minus h plus k. So this is going to be x is negative 1 and y is negative 2. If we just found the vertex and we've got it in vertex form and that's kind of all we're doing, then I think a decent sketch would be to show that it opens down. It's kind of wide because of the negative 1/3. That was not as good as it could have been. That will be a little bit better. All right, and maybe I'll label the vertex, but downward facing parabola, that's as good as we really need to do on this one. All right, determine the intervals on which f is increasing and decreasing. Okay, that we'll be using our sketch to help us answer that question. So increasing will be when x is less than negative 1. And decreasing, that will be when x is greater than negative 1. Okay. Find the maximum value of f. All right, the maximum value of f represents the y-coordinate, right? And so at that maximum, we see right up there, okay, the y-coordinate is 2, so I'm going to say the maximum value of f is 2. You could say f of negative 1 equals 2. Okay, but 2 would be fine. Okay, because 2 is the value of f. All right. This is kind of a long quiz. All right, just 2 more. So we're going to complete the square to write g in vertex form. All right, this is one where the leading coefficient is not 1, and so we have to factor out the 3 from the x squared and the negative 18x. So I'm going to take the 3 out. Okay, here, I'll start over. G of x is going to be 3 times x squared minus 6x, and I leave a spot to add something in, and plus 7. Okay, but I didn't leave any room to add anything to g of x, so I'm going to just add some room in now. Yeah, that'll be good. And now I have to think, okay, what do I need to add in right here to make this a perfect square trinomial? Okay, so I'm going to go over and I'm going to take negative 6, I'm going to divide by 2, and then I'm going to square it. Okay, so that'll be negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So I'm going to add 9 over here. But I need to add 27 over here because what I really added to the right side was 3 times 9. And now I've got a perfect square trinomial in there in parentheses. And so I'm going to subtract 27 from both. Actually, no, I'll just leave it like that. Factor the right side. And then I'll subtract 27. And that'll be vertex form. So if I take 7 and I subtract 27, that will be negative 20. And then we can sketch the graph of g in the space below. All right. So it's going to have a vertex at 3 and negative 20. The y-intercept is at positive 7. I don't know, maybe I'll try to draw this a little nicer. Y equals 3x squared. That's going to be pretty narrow. So. Yeah, good enough. Okay, so this is down here where x is 3, and y is negative 20. Okay. If I'm drawing a vertical line, to be able to, okay, say that's 7, right? Because we determined that was going to be the y-intercept, yeah. And so, okay, the x-axis will be somewhere between 7 and negative 20, so I might draw it like that, and that would be a really nice sketch. Nicer than we need. We probably just need the vertex and the fact that it opens up and is kind of narrow. Alright, let's do form B. So, complete the square to write the quadratic equation in vertex form. Okay, so we need to decide what we're going to add to both sides of the equation. Okay, and I'm going to take that negative 14 and divide it in half. That'd be negative 7, and I'll square it and I'll get 49. Okay, so I need to add 49 to both sides. X squared minus 14x plus 49. And I still have that plus 59. But I don't want to add them together, right? I'm going to use the 49 to factor, and then I'll subtract away from the 59 with this 49 that I added over here. Okay, so I'm going to factor on the right side in the parentheses. That's going to be x minus 7 squared. And then I'll still have that plus 59. And then I'll subtract 49 from both sides to put this in vertex form, and I'll get y equals x minus 7 squared plus 10. And we're going to go backwards. We're going to write this quadratic equation in standard form. So I need to do a little bit of work off to the side to square this x plus 2, and then I'll subtract 5. So I've got an x and a plus 2. I'm going to multiply that by another x and another plus 2. I'll have x squared plus 2x plus another 2x and 4. So I'll have y equals, just add everything together, x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4, okay, that's x plus 2 squared, minus 5. And then I'm just going to kind of collect some like terms, and I'm going to say y equals x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 5 is minus 1. In this next one, if we're just got something squared equals 10, we're going to take the square root of both sides of the equation. So the square root of x minus 3 squared is going to be the square root of 10. And the square root of something squared, that's its absolute value. So the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to the square root of 10. And if the absolute value of something is the square root of 10, then that thing is either going to be square root of 10 or negative square root of 10. Okay. And then I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get both of my solutions, and that would be x equals 3 plus square root 10, and x equals 3 minus square root 10. And we're going to solve this one by completing the square. So we need to pick a number to add to both sides. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to take this positive 6, and I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to square it. I'll get 3 times 3 is positive 9. So I'm going to add x squared plus 6x plus 9. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. And then I'm going to factor the left side. And going to collect 10 plus 9 together. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing I did up there once I got it down to that. I'm going to take the square root of x plus 3 squared. And that'll be the square root of 19. And then I'll have the absolute value of x plus 3 equaling the square root of 19. Then I'll go back up here and I'll say, alright, then x plus 3 has to be plus or minus the square root of 19. And I'll subtract 3 from both sides of that equation to get both of my solutions, and I'll say x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 19, or maybe x equals negative 3 minus the square root of 19. And then down here, if I'm determining what value of k would make this thing a perfect square trinomial, okay, just kind of like the work I did above in gray and yeah, gray up there as well. I'm just going to take the number that's attached to the first power of x, divide it in half, and then square it. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say that k needs to equal negative 60 divided by 2 squared, which is going to be equal to, all right, negative 30 times negative 30 would be positive 900. All right, the next couple problems are about this function f. And so f of x is 1/2 of x minus 3 squared minus 4. So we're going to start with the coordinates of the vertex on the graph of f. And I guess I'll just remind you that vertex form is y equals some number times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, and where h and k are the coordinates of the vertex. So if I've got x minus 3, then I know that the x coordinate of my vertex is going to be 3. And if on the outside of the square, after the fact, I've got negative 4, subtracting 4, I know that the y coordinate of the vertex is going to be y equals negative 4. Okay, sketching a graph. Okay, we don't have that much to go off of so far, so I'm just going to say, all right, this is point 3 and negative 4. Okay, it's 1/2 x squared, so it's going to be kind of wide. I don't know if it's that wide, but, for a given parabola, if you look close enough, it can be as wide or as narrow as you want, right? Just if you want it to be narrow, you just zoom out or something. So I think that's going to be a good sketch for us. Determine the intervals on which f is increasing and decreasing. All right, increasing is where it's got a positive slope, or where as I move left to right, the graph is moving up. Okay. And so I'm going to say increasing when x is greater than 3. And decreasing, well, that'll be where the graph has a negative slope, or where as I move left to right, the graph is going down. And so that will be when x is less than 3. The minimum value of f is going to be the y coordinate of the vertex, right? Because it's f that represents y. And at the very bottom, you can see that's the minimum y I'm going to have. It's at the very bottom. So I'm going to say the minimum value of f is negative 4. But if you wanted to say that it was f of 3 equals negative 4, that would be fine too. All right, now this last one, this is one where we're going to have to complete the square, but the leading coefficient is not 1, so we're going to have to do a little bit of extra work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, notice that 2 there, and I know I'm going to factor the 2 out of the x squared and this negative 16x. So I'm going to leave some room to add to g of x, and I'm going to factor out the 2 from the x squared and the negative 16x, so I'll be left with x squared and negative 8x. I'll leave room to add in there, but I'll still have this plus 5. When I'm deciding what number to add in to make that thing in parentheses a perfect square trinomial, I'm going to take negative 8 and I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to square it, and that would be negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Okay, so I'm going to add in 16 there. Okay, but I'm going to need to add 32 over here because I really added 2 times 16 on the right side. Now at this point I'm going to factor on the right side. And I'll have x minus 4 times x minus 4, still with plus 5. And now I'll solve for g of x, write it in vertex form by subtracting 32 from both sides. I don't think that'll be a plus. It'll be minus 27. Okay. And then sketch the graph of g in the space below. All right, well, we've got a vertex The coordinates of the coordinates of the vertex are 4 and negative 27. It opens up because of the positive 2. It's kind of narrow. I think that would be plenty good for a sketch. All right, that's Algebra 2 Quiz 4.2, both forms. Thanks for watching. Hope it helped.